Okay, so now let's look at an example of a double radical, like in this one. Our first step in solving radicals is always to get the radical by itself on one side. So we want to get one of these radicals by themselves on one side. So I am going to move over to the right and leave the positive radical on the left side. So I'm going to have the square root of 2x plus 3 on the left. And then notice that now I've moved the negative square root of x plus 2 over to the right. It's become a positive square root when it went across the equal sign. Now I could have put it in front of the 2 or behind the 2 like here. It doesn't make a difference. We're going to go ahead with our second step, which is to square both sides. So I will square the left side. And here's where we want to be careful. On the right side, we can do these separately. We have to square this entire quantity. Okay. All right. So on the left side, since we're squaring a square root, it just pops out as 2x plus 3. So on the right side, however, since there is this extra portion that's being added that is not underneath that radical, we cannot just cancel out that square root with that square. We need to multiply out what this is. So, in other words, 2 square root of x plus 2 squared really means 2 plus the square root of x plus 2 times 2 plus the square root of x plus 2. We got to write that out. And we pull this ugly thing out. We're still going to be left with a radical. We're going to have to repeat our. We're going to leave the 2x plus 3 on the left side alone for the moment. And we are going to multiply out the right side. So this 2 is 4. The 2 times the square root of x plus 2 is 2 square root of x plus 2. And I'm just going to copy and paste that little dude if I can. It may not let me get the radical in. All right, and now the square root of x plus 2 times this 2, the inside, is again 2 square root of x plus 2. This doesn't, well, I'm not sure what's going on with my computer here. All right, and now plus 2 times the square root of x plus 2. That's really like squaring them. That's x plus 2. All right, so notice that process again. We just did FOIL. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times the square root of 2. Square root of x plus 2 times 2 is 2 square root of x plus 2. And square root times that square root just pops out as x plus 2. All right, now, we still have a radical in this equation. We need to move everything that's not in the radical, the 4, the x, and the 2, over to the other side. And we're going to repeat the process that we did in our first step. All right, now, before I do that, well, I'll go ahead and move those things. If I move the 4, it'll become a negative 4. If I move the x, it'll become a negative x. And if I move the 2, it'll become a negative 2. Now, you'll notice there's numbers in front of the radicals, and we can just add the radicals together because they're like terms. So this is a 2 square root of x plus 2. This is a 2 square root of x plus 2. It's just like having 2x and 2x. We can add them together. That's 4 square root of x plus 2. Okay? And we can leave that 4 that's being multiplied out front out there. We just have to be careful when we square it that we also square that 4. Now, before we start squaring things, comes here on the left, or that will be a doozy of a thing to square. So 2x minus x will give us just x. And the 3 minus the 4 will be a negative 1. And then the negative 2 will give us a minus 3. Okay, so now let's square both sides. I'm going to square the left. And I'll square the right. already kind of got some parameters aren't supposed to be there, but all right. So on the left side, just like before, we need to write out what x minus 3 squared means, and then we're going to FOIL it out. On the other side, however, we're going to square. So square the 4, that's 16. Square the square root, it pops out as x plus 2. I don't know why I keep hitting the minus sign. All right, now it's a much more normal looking equation now that our square roots are gone. On the left, x times x is x squared. X times minus 3 is minus 3x. Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. And minus 3 times minus 3 is plus 9. On the right, I'll go ahead and distribute, except I need to get that equal sign instead of the plus. All right, 16x, and then the 16 times 2 will give me 32. Now let's notice, again, we've got an x squared, so it's quadratic. So let's move everything over to the left side and try to factor this thing. So I have x squared, and I'll leave everything as it is and add like terms after I've moved them. So the 16x will become negative when it comes across, and the 32 will also become negative when it comes across the equal sign. And let's add terms. Let me move this down a little bit so we don't lose sight of it. So negative 3x and negative 3x is negative 6x. Add that to the negative 16, that's going to be negative 22x. And then we have a positive 9 and a negative 32, which is going to give us negative 23. And that does factor. 23 is prime, so that makes this kind of easy. The only thing we can factor it at is this 23 and 1, and we need one negative and one positive. Since our 22 needs to be negative, it's our 23 that has to be the negative, and 1 will be a positive. And at this point, if it doesn't factor, you have probably done something wrong in all the steps above. So let's set both of the factors to 0. We get 23 for an answer. Oops. X equals 23. And we get negative 1 for an answer. Now, just as we did in our previous radical problems, we do have to check the solutions to the original equation. So I'll start with the 23. So if I go back here, I'll have the square root of 2 times 23 plus 3 root 2 times 23 plus 3. Let me go back up there. Let's see. And then we had minus, I think. Yeah, minus the square root of 23 plus 2. Equals 2. All right, so let's see. 2 times 23 will be 46. 46 plus 3 will be 49. So we have the square root of 49 minus the square root of 25 equals 2. Well, that's 7 minus 5 equals 2. That checks. That's fine. So 23 is a good solution. Let's check negative 1 in the same manner. So we'll have square root of 2 times negative 1 plus 3 minus the square root of minus 1 plus 2 equals 2. All right, so that's the square root of, let's see, negative 2 plus 3 will be 1. And square root of negative 1 plus 2 will be 1. And square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. But 1 minus 1 is certainly not 2. So negative 1 is our bad solution. It's extraneous. We just want to exit out. 23 is the only solution to this problem.